Hey guys, how's it going today? How are you doing? Gosh, I got another wave of really missing you guys and missing being able to teach you live and just a general to see how you are doing um, and seeing, yeah, just to know what's going on. So, yeah, I miss you guys. Um, is it weird to say I kind of hope you miss me too? I hope it was an okay year with us so far. Um, but the reason I'm here is really to teach you math in our Zoom meeting. Hopefully we can get caught up and I'll focus these notes a little bit more on math. We are going to continue working with volume, and if you haven't noticed, I'm just taking my sweet old time with volume, doing a little bit of each day, and hopefully you get a really good understanding by taking your time this way. Again, with these notes, either print them out or go ahead and do it on a separate sheet of notebook paper. Our goal today is, and it's right here in the directions, find the missing dimensions of a cylinder. So our focus is cylinder, and so we'll go ahead and focus on using the cylinder formula today. What I'm doing is I'm giving you the volume. So if the volume is equal to 100 pi and your r, your radius, is equal to 5, what is h? So before we even get started, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take the volume formula and recopy it. And so once I have this recopied, I'm going to take information from the problem and make my substitution. So it's telling me volume is 100 pi. So instead of recopying V like we have in the past, this time I'm going to go ahead and recopy 100 pi and have equals. The pi is going to drop down again. And then instead of having r, it's telling me radius is 5. So it's going to be times 5. We drop down squared, and then I drop down h. H is my unknown, and that's what they're stating in the question, what is h? And that's what we'll end up solving for. So my first step, just like the last time that we would do this, is we're going to go ahead and square 5. So I'm going to square 5. So I'm going to recopy everything else. And 5 squared is 25, so I have 25 times h. And then what I'm going to do is, my goal is to isolate h, to get h by itself. So to do that, I'm going to start by moving the 25 to the other side. And if you remember solving for variables, we do inverse operations. So if I have 25 times h, my inverse, my opposite, is to divide. I'll divide by 25. And if I do something to one side of the equal sign, I have to do it to the other. I'm going to divide out 25, and so on the right side, I'm left with pi h. On the left side, I have 100 over 25. I'm sorry, 100 pi over 25. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide 100 by 25, and that gives me 4. So just a basic, if you want to double check my math, oops, 100 divided by 25, I get that 4, okay? And then I still have that pi, and that pi is going to get dropped down. So I'm almost there. I'm getting a little bit closer to solving for h, getting h by itself. My next step is I have pi h, and remember it's like pi times h. And the inverse of multiplication is to divide. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and divide by pi, and if I do it to one side of the equal sign, we do it to the other. Now, pi divided by pi is 1, okay? So this one is 1, so I can take that h and drop it down. If I have 4 pi divided by pi, same thing. The pi's divide out, and then I can drop down 4. And now I've isolated h. I've solved for h. I got h by itself, and so 4 is equal to h. Okay, so that's my height. Let me try this again for number 2, just to really make sure that you understand what I went through. So number 2 is just like what we did with number 1. So we're going to find that missing dimension of a cylinder. They give me information, what the volume is, what the radius is, and they're asking for what is height. So my very first step, again, is I'm going to take that cylinder formula right over here and recopy it. So volume is equal to pi r squared h. So once I do that, I'm going to make my substitution. So instead of having uh, rewriting V, V is now equal to 243 pi. So I'm going to put that in its place. So I'm going to have 243 pi. And pi, again, we're going to recopy, drop down. It tells me what radius is. Radius is 9. So I'm going to go ahead and do times 9, 9 squared, and then h is my unknown, so I'm going to have times h. Okay. So same thing, order of operations tells me if I have anything that needs to get squared, I need to do that first before we do anything else. So I'll recopy everything and then do 9 squared. So 243 pi equal to pi, and then that 9 squared is 81, 9 times 9, and then times h. So everything is dropped down except we did 81. Now again, my goal is to get h by itself because it's asking for what is h. Just like when we would solve variables in the past, if I have 81 times, we do the opposite, we do the inverse. The inverse is to divide. And I'm going to divide by 81. And if I do it on one side, because there's an equal sign, I have to do it on the other. So the 81 does divide out. So that means that on the right side, I'm left with pi times h. On the right side, on the left side, I just need to divide. And so 243 divided by 81, that gives me 3. So I'm going to take that 3 and drop it down. 3 pi, so we can't forget about that pi, that gets dropped down as well. Now I'm left with pi times h. So again, I have multiplication between these two. To solve for h, we do the inverse. The inverse is the opposite, and that opposite is to divide. I'm going to divide by pi. If I do it to one side of the equal sign, we do it to the other. Pi divided by pi divides out. That gives me 1. So I'm left with h on the right side. Same thing on the left. Pi divided by pi, they cancel out. It gives me 1. 3 times 1 is still 3. So my answer is 3 equals h. Okay? That's it for these notes today. Again, if there's any struggles, please email, reach out, or even post something on Google Classroom, because if you're struggling, you're probably not the only one struggling, and someone needs to just kind of step up, be brave, and post that question. All right. Hey, that's it from me today, guys. Take care. Can't wait to talk to you guys on our Zoom meeting.